In this video, we're going to focus on how we can put on a date. We can highlight a specific area or a time section. So for example, here, I'm going to grab here the 2nd of May, and then we want to highlight to 4th of May. And we can say here, decline in sales. And if I do this and add there, you can see here now we have the text decline in sales, and this is the highlighted part. Then next, what I want to do here is maybe some 6 to 7 May. Let's grab it again. 6 to 7 May, and we're going to say here now, new promo. And add this, there we are. So with this, we can add up more and more sections and analyze specific areas or time frames in our chart. So let's start to look how to highlight the background by selecting dates in Chart.js. So the first thing what we're going to do here is we're going to grab here the default code, which you can find on chartjs3.com getting started, or this specific link here, which you can find in the description box. Once you're on the site, scroll down and just copy this entire chunk of code here. Copy this, and if you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video here that explains it all. So I'll just paste it all in there, and then I'll cut this out, and then I'm going to put that in here. Save this, then refresh, there we are. So what I want to do next is I need to get here eventually the dates, because I'm going to have here a select option with the dates. So how do we do this? Well, we need to go to chartjs3.com, or sorry, not even chartjs3.com, but the official website, which is chartjs.org. That's this website here, and once you're on here, make sure you go to the ecosystem here. Once you're on this page, you scroll down and then search for the adapters, because we're going to grab here the date adapters. There are 3 options here. Don't use this because this has been deprecated, so they're not being updated since 2020. These 2 are probably the best to use. I like this one for the ease of use, but this one only has 1 JavaScript file, so in my case I'm going to grab this because I won't be using anything else from the date FNS features. So once I'm on here, scroll down here and then search for this JavaScript library here, which is the Chart.js adapter date FNS bundle. Copy this. Once we have that, I'm going to put that in here, paste that in there, make sure it is after the Chart.js library because this is dependent on whatever's in here. If I save this, refresh, nothing happens here yet. And the reason why is we didn't set up here the date and we didn't assign the date scale. So I'm going to do that right now. Let's see X. And in the X, we're going to say type of scale, and this will be called time. And then time must have a comma, of course, because here we're going to say time. So now we can use this namespace as an object here. Then we can say here the unit, and the unit will be measured in days, or basically day, singular. Alright, so once you did that, make sure you have a comma here. If I save this now, refresh, now it will not work because we didn't have the dates ready. So I'm going to put in here a few dates. So I'm going to say here 2022, and then let's say here May 1. That should be like this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put that in here. Then afterwards, we will just increment them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Save, refresh. There we are. We have this here, and I guess for us a line chart is the most practical in our case. So I want to convert it into a line chart. By doing that, I want to make the tension here 0.4. You can save that, and then maybe just a single color is fine. Doesn't make any sense to have multiple colors. We're going to save that, refresh. Alright, so now we have this here. And what we want to do now is once we select one of these dates, that we're able to highlight the background on these. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work on the basics by creating a plugin first. So we are in the options, comma, and say plugins, bracket, and then we can say here what would be the proper plugin name. And in this case, I will call it the date highlighter. Highlighter, am I correct? That's correct. Alright, copy that. Now we have this object, so we're going to say here the date highlighter plugin block, and then in here constant date highlighter equals, and then we say ID equals the date highlighter here, comma, and then we have to consider when would we like to draw the background color. In this case, the background color should come before we draw the dataset line, which makes sense, or else it will overlap it and it will hide it. So what we're going to do here, we're going to say here before data sets with an S, draw, and then we can say here chart, arcs, and finally plugin options. These are the three arguments we're going to use, or sorry, the three objects. They are arguments, or I think these are the parameters itself. Sorry, these are the parameters, but they are objects as well. So what I'm going to do here now is object destructuring constant equal chart, like this. And if you want to understand object destructuring, I have a video explaining this. I highly recommend that to watch that one, which is called Understanding the Object Destructuring in Chart.js. You can find it in the description box. So in here, what I want to have is a few items, the CTX, so we can draw on the canvas. Next, what I want to know is the chart area, because I need to know the measurement of the chart area to draw the items or the size of the colors. So if you want to understand this as well, in the description box, make sure you watch the video Understanding Chart Area. So then I'm going to say the top, bottom, left, right, width, and height. We might not use them all, but I just put them in there just in case. Next, what I want to have is the scales, and then we're going to have here the X and Y scale, although we're probably only using the X scale because we want to know once we select it where or how many pixels or in the canvas, where's the exact position of that specific day. So that's what we have here. Now what I want to do here is start drawing the item. So what I'm going to do here is let's see, we have a few items here. I guess what we can do here is let's say a constant, and I'm going to say just a start date. We're going to create a date here equal. What is very important, because we're going to use the JavaScript date objects, and later on this will become extremely important, because for example, if I want to select here 2022, then May 1, then we're basically, this is not a date object, it's considered a string. So what we need to do is we need to convert this into a date object, and as well, if you have an input, this becomes a string, so we need this converted. How do we do that? Well, luckily it's quite easy. We just say new date, and then we have this. And what I want to do here is, because the date here will also grab the GMT, which is the Greenwich Mean Time, and that can be a problem depending on your local time zone. In my case, I am GMT +8. So what will happen is, if I would select something or the color, it will not start here, but maybe somewhere halfway. So I want to avoid that. I want to start always at 12 midnight, which is the starting point of the day. Makes sense. So I'm going to say a dot. Then I'm going to say set hours. And the hours will be set in hours, basically. This is not even set hours, but it's the time itself. It's in 4 digits, hours, or 4 categories, hours, minutes, seconds, and final one comma is the millisecond. So basically I want to have all zeros here, so we're exactly on 12 midnight. So once I have this here, I will get as well a end date. And the end date is exactly the same here, except a different term. And for this here now, let's say number 2. So once I have this, what I want to do here now is I want to give it a proper color. I'm going to start drawing something. I'm going to say ctx.fill style. And this fill style will be equal to an RGBA. And you can just grab here the default black color that I always use. I guess it's in here as well. We can just grab that from here. There you are. RGBA 000.02. Which is basically black is always 000. So maybe we didn't have to copy that. Anyway, once we have this, then I want the shape of the item. So what I'm going to say here, ctx.fill rectangle. And then here, I'm going to use some commands. So basically we have the starting date here. But if I get this and put that in there, this will not recognize the official coordinates here. Why? The coordinate must be in a certain way, or at least we need to communicate this not in the time here, but what's the index number of that. So what we have to do here is the following, or sorry, not even the index number, my bad. We don't need the index number, but what we need is we get this value and then convert that into a pixel. So we say here the rectfill consists of 4 values, so x, y, and then width and height. So the x would be the starting point. In this case, our starting point is the starting date, but we're going to say x dot. And the reason why this x here is because we have the scale here with this x for the object destructuring. So we're going to say here get pixel for value. And what I'm really doing here is using a Chart.js built-in command. Then we say here for what value? Well, in this case, we have to convert it to proper time and date. So it will understand this. So once we did this, the next thing what I need to do here is I need to figure out where's the starting point of the y level, which is the vertical level. So in this case, if I start at May 1, this is the starting point then. And then here up, that will be the top. That's me. That will be our starting point, because I want to only cover this one till May 2. So that's what I want to do here. So then I have to get the next one. I need to calculate the width. And the width is the how many pixels. It's basically the width in pixels, meaning how many pixels we have here. If I do here 10 pixels, it would mean starting point here, then 10 pixels to the right. So I'll just show this here for now. And then the height here will be based on the height. This one here, with this height here, is officially this point to there. So paste that in there. If I save this now, refresh, let's see, there we are. So now what I want to do is I want to go and get it here. So you might say, all right, we just can copy this, put that in there, and then we say here end date, which is on May 2. So we just copy this and put it in there. Save, refresh. This doesn't work. And the reason why this doesn't work is because we have here, this pixel point is not the width from this point to there. No, it is basically from here to there. So that's why we have this additional space here on the left. So what I'm going to do here is a calculation. We say here, whatever is our starting point or ending point minus starting point. So let's copy this. We have this, or at least we have this one here. And then we say here, we will deduct whatever is our starting point. Copy. Paste that in there. Save. Refresh. There we are. So now if I change this, let's say I'm going to say here, this is 2 and this will be 4. Save. Refresh. Beautiful. Alright, so now we have the first part. So now what I want to do is I want to create here an item, because what I'm going to do here now is what if we will have multiples? So this becomes very useful in a chart for a stock market, or if you want to check our history where you have like an annotation with a highlight with text. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make that now. So what I'm going to do now here is the following. I'm going to create a for loop. This for loop, before I even do this, we need to figure out where do we get then this item here. So what I'm going to do is in here in the options, after the skills, we have the skills here, say comma, I'm going to say plugins. And then what I'm going to use here is the following. I'm going to use this ID here, the date highlighter. I'm going to put that in here. So what we're really doing now is we're going to create some variables, and this is a quite professional way to do it. This is a very advanced item. And we connect them. This ID here and this plugin options will become very important for us. So basically what I want to do now is I want to say a start date. So we're going to say here, we can give it any name you want, but in this case I'll just say start date to be very consistent. I'm going to make this a bracket, so this is an array value. The same what I will do here is for the end date. So once you have this one, then I want to copy this and put it in there. And I'll put another one in here. Let's do 2 here to see later on if this will work nicely. And this one will be 1 May. And is the ending date of the first one in the array will be 2 May. And then this one will be, let's say 4 May all the way to 5 May or maybe 6 May. How many we have here, alright? So if I save this, nothing happens yet because we have no reference yet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create the reference. First thing is, we have this plugin options here. This plugin options connected with this here, basically this could be almost seen as a object destructuring as well, but then directly to this item here. But what we need to do is we go from here. I'm going to show you, we're going to say this dot, and then we have here the start date. And this here basically indicates our start date here now. Now what I want to do here, I want to say here index number 0. So that's the first one of the start date, which is 1 May. Then the next one, you can copy this, put it in here, and this will be end date index 0. So that will be 2 May. So if I save this, refresh, here we are. So now we have this connected. Now I'm going to create a for loop, so we have multiple, and later on we're going to make a button that will push them in step by step. So I'm going to say here for loop, and in this for loop we're going to say let I equals 0, and then we're going to say I keep on looping I for the amount of length we have on this. So what I need to calculate here, start date dot length, that will be the most logical, and then we're going to say a semicolon I plus plus for incremental, increase it incrementally. Then I'm going to cut out this, put it in there, proper indentation, there we are. And then in here we have this, but we have the I here, so we can do here now, I and I, save, refresh, there we are. Now we have this here, absolutely phenomenal. But of course we're not done yet, because I can imagine you would like to have some text here as well, so we should have a proper description for this. So let's start to do that one next. So in here, after the for loop, semicolon, enter, enter, and then in here, I'm going to start with the next item, which is the text. So what I want to do is, I want to have a text here that will define it, but I want to rotate the text, because you don't want a text from horizontally, for one reason only, because it will not fit. Imagine you have here many data points, then it will not fit and you will have a problem. So what you need to have is what we call rotated version here, and that is slightly more tricky, but we'll cover that. So what I'm going to do here, first of all, I'm going to say here, we're going to do this again. I'm going to grab here the constant, or basically I'm going to grab again this. This is important for us. And we can put them, well, we couldn't put them out there because of the for loop here, so that will become a problem. But later on we'll have a for loop for this, or I guess we can make the for loop already. Let's say let maybe j equals 0, just to avoid any confusion. Although it doesn't matter, you could even do I, doesn't matter. Here we can just copy, I guess we can just copy this entire chunk of code, paste that in there. So I'll just say here j, so we're not getting confused. J and J, but it's exactly the same here. Then curly braces, semicolon, and then here a proper indentation. Alright, now we have this. What I want to do here is I want to have specifically the text. So what I'm going to say here, ctx.fill style. I'm going to say here the fill style will be RGBA. And we can just copy this one here. Basically, we'll copy this, except it will be just solid black, or maybe even a hashtag 666. Hashtag 666 is the official color for Chart.js scale text. That's the grayish color. So then what I want to do here is I want to say I want to have a font style. So I'm going to say ctx.font. And this font will be, we'll make it bold. And it will be 12 pixels. And it will have a font family of sans serif, semicolon. So now we have this defined. We're going to say ctx.fill text, and the fill text here, just for now, as demo, I'm going to say here hello, comma, and then here we have two other argument values we need to put in, the x value and the y value. So the x value here is slightly tricky, because we need to still rotate it, and I guess we have to do that one before I even put in here any value, or else we'll get some issues. But let's put it here 100 by 100. I'll just save this for now. Refresh. Alright, interesting. It doesn't work. So let's see what's the error. In 83. So number 83 we have this let equals, oh well, I forgot. It should be an equal, not a dash. There we are. So we have here hello. There it is, and I can say hello plus j multiplied by 50. If I do this, we should probably have a movement here. As you can see here, we have 2 times hello. It's not only once. That's why I'm just making a movement here by a loop, because we have the loop here. So that is the first confirmation. But of course, I don't want this. I want it rotated. I want it from here vertically. So how do we do this? So I need to go up here, and then what I'm going to say here is ctx.rotate. And this rotation here, we have here a value, basically we need to calculate here the angle. So what I want to do is to calculate the angle, I will just put here up or just here below. There's somewhere here, constant, and I say angle equals. And you don't have to do this, but if you understand the formulas in math.pi, where 1 pi equals 180 degrees, so it's a half circle. So what I want to do is just divide that, so we have only 1 degree always, so it's easier to calculate 360. So it's a math.pi with capital P and I divide by 180 degrees. That's the angle here, and then I'm going to make this very simple. I'll just say here first of all 0 multiplied by angle, of course that will be 0, refresh, then you can see nothing happens. But now if I do 5 and save, oh, alright, you can see here something is happening. Of course this is not really what I want, because I still need to do a translate. And the translate basically makes that specific, instead of, because right now it rotates everything, but later on if I do a translate, it will only rotate the specific item, in this case our text here. So this is very important. So I'm going to say here, just below here, ctx.translate, putting on 0, 0. Save this, refresh. Alright, interesting. So it's still here. Let's see. I have to just check what we need to do more. And we have to rotate. Let me double check. Alright, so I finally figured it out. It took me an hour or so to figure it out, but the reason why there's a rotation, even here change. Alright, so let me just move some of these items here. We have the restore, we have the translate here. The restore here needs to be outside. Let's do that one. So make sure you have this, and refresh. So you get this animation here. So what is exactly the reason why? Because we had it on 1 here, and that was probably the reason why it was rotating as well. You can see here this. So to counteract this, apparently there's nothing in this formula that is incorrect. What is needed, and I thought I did that, but apparently I deleted it after a while. Here above, we need ctx.save to save the current position we have here. So if I save this and refresh, that is the answer. Alright, so now we have this one, and that took me so much time. Now let's continue on. So what we're going to do now is to try to figure out the position here. So we have this, and this hello, I want to rotate now, and now we are able to rotate with this. If you look very carefully, you might see here that there's a tiny rotation. And let's put it at 10 angle, and you can see here, there we are. So we're going to start rotating this. So we have to translate here on 0, 0. We have the color here, and then we're going to look at this specific item here. What I want to do with this is, we need to get here, because we're going to rotate it. As we rotate it 90 degrees, basically this item that's here is going down like that. So it's like a rectangle, but then pointing down. So it's what we call that a portrait style. Well, this is a landscape style. So if it's portrait, we need to think exactly the opposite. And the reason why is because we rotate, but the canvas still uses the same coordinates for the X and Y. So if we're going here, well, we have to exactly think in the opposite direction. So if I want to go to the left or the right, we need to put that coordinates in here. And if I want to go up and down, we need to put the coordinates here, because we're rotating with a 90 degree angle. So you might not understand fully what I say if I do this, 90. Then we are hard to see our item here. So let's say I'll do 45. Save. There we are. So you can see here, we're moving, and I want to move that more to this side here. So I need to go more, but what I would say, to the right side. But you might say, well, we're rotating, isn't that then going up or down? Well, the answer is no. We have to say right. So within here, we have to put some values. Let's see, which one do we need? Let's grab here. We need to go to the left, or sorry, I think that is, if we do that one, so that's basically the height, because we're rotating it. So even for me, this is a real mind twister. So let's say here the height first, or let's do a height, and let's see what happens. Save, refresh. Alright, so we're getting here. What did we do? Let's go put it back on 0. Then we are here. So if I say 100, from there, we're going there. So if I need to go more there, what I need is probably the height. And if you go there, you can see here that's the height, but I need to, let's rotate this again. Where are we? It's still not being shown. So what I could do here, probably I need to move this more, because what is happening, height is going horizontal and vertical, and then I need to probably play around here. Let's see what is the right way to do it. Let's make this 250 and see if we can find it. The moment we find that one, it becomes easier to understand. Put it on 0. There you are. That's 0. And this is the height. Height is on there. Alright, so now we're getting closer. So let me explain here. We rotate it. So what is happening now, we go up and down. And right now our height is basically calculating this point here. And this way it starts here or starts where, somewhere in the center here. So what I need to do now is I want to divide this height by 2. Let's do that first. There we are. But then we're not fully in the center because the height is calculating this point to that point, excluding the upper part. So I'm going to say here plus top. As you can see here, what I need to do is basically here playing around with the horizontal values, but thinking in vertical level. Very important to understand. So here, because we're rotating here, this is also a tricky one. We rotate this, just think like here's a pin. And if we rotate this like a piece of paper, you pull it down. But what happens is we're going here, and this part here is basically the negative, while this is the positive numbers. Meaning, if I want to go here, I need to say negative on height. So let's say minus 100. Then we should see it will appear. There you are. Alright, so now what I need to do here is to calculate. And what we need to calculate is basically the variable or the information from this one here, the start date. But what I want is not the start date, because if I do only start date here, we can just grab this one and just say here x dot get pixel for value. And again, the reason why x, because we are now in opposite direction, so everything is here in the opposite way. So if I save this, refresh. Alright, interesting. Give us a start date. Oh, of course. But what I need to do here, multiply by -1. I need to make it negative. Okay. Refresh. There we are. So this is it. However, I'm not satisfied because what I want to do is I want to put it in the center here. So I need to know the size between this and this point, or how much is the difference between the pixel, and then get the center here, plus that on our starting point, or from our ending point, then we deduct it. It's one or the other. So that one needs to be done as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to calculate here the difference. And the difference is basically in pixels. So I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about, so that will help you out a bit more. Let's grab this, put it in here, and then I'm going to copy this, and we're going to say here end date. And then for now we have both of them, so that's fine. I'll just do this, refresh, open up developer tab. You get many of these, but don't get confused. The first one here, let me just refresh again, because then it will be in this fitting chart. So the very first one here is basically the starting date of index 0, and then it loops through it, index 1, etc, etc. So in this case we have 2 items here, so it shows 2 indexes. So this is start and ending date of index 0 of this one here, and this one is start and ending date of that one here. So what we need to do is, you can see here, it's very simple. We calculate this 100. This is the ending date minus the 27 pixels, which is the starting date. That difference divided by 2 will be about 75 divided by 2 is 35 pixels approximately. And that difference needs to be added on here. So if I would say here, as I said, with 37 pixels, let's say 37 pixels here, approx. Save, refresh. Yeah, as you can see here, this starts to work quite nicely, but of course we need to do a formula or else we'll get here an error. Or, not an error, but this doesn't show correct position. So what I'm going to do here, say constant, and I'll just say a diff for difference, equals, and I'm going to say here, just going to grab this, we need the highest value first, which is the ending date, minus the starting date. And then we'll say divide by 2. But of course, what I want to do is priority in mathematics. Here we are. So first plus the minus. First do this, the minus first. And then afterwards we divide this by 2. Then we're going to grab this diff. This difference here, we can say here now plus difference, save, refresh. Alright, so there we are. And I feel like we're not yet fully in the center yet. So let's see what's going on here with the hello. Let's fix that one to put it in the proper center. So we say here top height plus top is that one. Alright, so let me double check. We're going to say here height divided by 2 plus top. Is that do we have here maybe text align? Alright, so I can see here what is the issue here. I forgot here the text align center. I'm going to say ctx.text align equals center. Save. Make sure that this is a string value, of course. Then save, refresh. There we are. So now we have this, but of course we're not done yet. And the reason why we're not done, this is easy with a hard-coded item and a text here. So what I want to do now is I want to make this dynamic text. I'm going to grab this here. I'll just put in here something. I'm going to say here label. Very simple. Just straightforward label in the plugins. So I'm going to grab here. This will be now the plugins options dot label index or I. Or sorry, not I, but J. We're using here the J variable here. So save, refresh. Alright, interesting. So this does not work unexpectedly. So let's see here, plugin options label. Did I say label or labels? No, everything is fine. Start date, label. So what is the error here? I think I forgot a comma. Plugin options is not defined. Of plugin options, am I correct? Sorry, without the S. Make sure it's plugin, plural, of singular, not plural. So now we get these numbers here. Alright. So that's fine, but I want now, of course, string. Say we can, for example, here highlight this. This would be end of promo, and promo, and start of promo, or something like that. And this is usually with charts, you can highlight sort of the segments where you can say, all right, this decline, or maybe holiday. That's why there was a decline in sales, and here you get it up and down. Maybe it was the start of a promo, and then so we're expecting maybe some run and or some sales, and afterwards it will decline a little bit, but after that something. Anyway, doesn't matter. That's a whole story. That's different. That's just analyzing the data. So what I want to do now is this here is now hard coded. I don't want it hard coded. I want it soft coded. So let's go to the final part here. We're almost done. So in here, I'm going to put here up. And I'm going to say here over the input type equals date. And then maybe ID will be, I'll make it simple. I'll say start. Then I will have it again, another one, date for end. Then what I will have input type, let's say text. This will be the label. And finally, I want to say here button to confirm the item here. And this here will be an on click. We will trigger a function. Let's say here add or highlight. Add highlight could be maybe a better word, a better term for the button. So in here, we have this function, let's say here time range or highlight, maybe like this, highlight section. Alright, grab this function. I'm going to copy this function and then I'm going to put it in here. Say here function. This function is like that. There we are. And what we're going to do in here is basically 3 items. First of all, I want to make sure we get these variables, whatever we select here. Oh, let me save this first and refresh. There we are. We have all of this here, but of course when we click on it, nothing happens yet. What I want to do here is we're going to select here, and you can do a min and max for this. I will not focus on that. I will just put in just these basics. But then what I'm going to say here is the following. Constant. We have here the start. Remember that we have that assigned. That is the first one here. The date, start date, and date label. These 3 we need. So I'm going to say here start date, and that will be document. So just going to be your document dot get element by ID to assign that one, and I say dot value. I just want to grab this specific value of start. Same I will do here for the end and as well for the label. So I say here end label. Alright. So once I have this, then what I want to do here is I want to assign those accordingly. So what that means is I want to make sure we're going to put in a certain item here that is, or we want to push the values in here. This is very, very important. So I'm going to say here the following. I'm going to say here from my chart, because what I need to do is I need to grab this item first. So my chart dot config, and if you're wondering how I get there, my chart config, and from config we go to options, and then we go to plugins, data highlighter, and then etc. etc. So options dot plugins dot date or date highlighter, and then here dot start date. And then what I want to do here, I'll say here the following dot push. What I'm going to push, well, I'm going to push this starting value in here. What this push method does is basically in an array or in an object, it pushes the value in there. So this is what we need. So I'm going to grab this one as well. Then we say here end, and this will be for the end date, which is this one here. So once I did that, finally, copy this, and we get here the label. And this will be the label. There we are. So once I have all of that, I'm going to say my chart dot update. There we are. Save, and then refresh here. Alright, so if I click now, or let's do something, let's see if something even works. Let's say 3 till 4, I'll say not hello, new item, add, there we are, beautiful. So now I have this, I can remove all other items here, or at least I want to remove the values within the array, because we're going to push now our own version in here, and then we're done. So save this, refresh, and now I'm going to select here from 2 May up to 4 May, let's say holiday. There we are. And then what I want to do is, and then from 5 May up to 6 May, no stock ABC. And that one, there we are, absolutely phenomenal. With this, you can highlight very important segments of your chart and show them nicely, or check them as well, and do your analytics with this. This is really, really fun. Alright, so that is basically how we do this. There's still maybe one thing I would like to change here. You can see here, this my chart here. If you would have multiple charts and maybe want to apply this on multiple charts, of course they need to have the plugin item here with all of this data. But this here is basically hard coded into this. So what I want to do here is, let's just say here is, this is the chart. So what I'm going to do here is, when you click on it, you click here on my chart. Oh, I'm not sure if this really works, sorry. I will just ignore that for now. I'm not certain if this one works. So that's why I will avoid that. But if you want to change that one, we need to probably get here this, but that's alright. I guess we can skip that for now. This is basically the most important part to understand. So if you enjoyed this video and maybe you want to do some more things, you can even give this unique colors as well by using separate colors within here. So that's all what you can do. But if you want to know some other items, because this is a part of analytics, but you have as well, for example, you want to have these boundary or shading area, that's the right term. In that case, I would recommend you to have this video here and how to add curved shading area in a line chart in Chart.js. So you have more deeper analytics consistently on Chart.js. So that's another one I highly recommend to explore as well.